Hey guys, Foxdrop here. Today I want to show you guys two new junglers with two new builds that are currently taking solo queue by storm. Now normally I don't do videos like this, it's not really in my wheelhouse to be constantly checking win rates, scouting for new stuff, but my brother Fi, who does a lot of this kind of stuff, made me aware of some things, and honestly it's pretty interesting. Like, that's why I've never really done something like this on my channel, because it doesn't really catch my attention normally. But with this Skarner and Hecarim shooting to number 1 and number 2 respectively in the solo queue jungle win rate list, both of which is the new Triforce, I figured it was worth covering. Like I said though, this isn't normally what I would do, so if you want to see more consistent videos of this kind, then do make sure to check out Fi's channel, which I'll link to down below in the description. I've also got full gameplay of this Skarner in action already on my channel, with Hecarim coming out later, so make sure to keep your eyes peeled for those if you want to see these builds in action. This is a video being made in partnership with Pro Guides, who by the way have released quite a nifty new service called Genius. What they've done is they've banded together a bunch of high elo players to be at your disposal. So if you ever have a question you want to ask a high elo player, you can do that 24 hours a day. Not bad, eh? Let's start by talking about the Triforce change in itself. Before this season, Triforce had a dash of pretty much every single stat. Now this made it never really fully optimal for any character, as you'd never have someone who would itemize for AP, AD, crit and attack speed. Sure, there were some characters who could use several parts, but never all of them. At the beginning of the season, we saw Sheen losing its AP and instead gaining 10% CDR, removing one layer of its nicheness, so to speak, a change that overall made it more appealing to a wider range of champions. A change that made sense too, since if you really wanted an AP Sheen effect, you'd be getting Lichbane. And now it no longer has crit, has more emphasis on attack speed, and gives an extra 10% CDR. Like the AP, the crit was another niche component of the item, something that the vast majority of Triforce users didn't care about. Long story short, over the course of this season, we've seen Triforce being tuned to not only fit a wider array of champions, but probably more significantly, to better fit already existing Triforce users, as we're seeing with Aurelia and Jax in the top lane, and now as we'll be taking a look at here, Skarner and Hecarim in the old jingle jangle. So with Skarner and Hecarim being the most prolific Triforce junglers, it's easy to see how an increase in the item strength has boosted their overall strength too. Now let's take a look and break down how it goes for each of these champions, and of course how to play them. We'll start with Skarner. Now the last time he was properly in the meta was probably back in season 3, when Spirit of the Elder Lizard was really good on him. Since then, I would argue that one of his biggest problems has been his everlasting struggle to find a jungle item that really suits him. They're all okay, but they're none of them anything special. On top of that, as someone who needs to spam abilities to clear properly, he would often find himself in mana problems. Still, if you knew how to play him properly, then you could work around all of this stuff. After all, what are we jungle mains if not for experts at working with what we've been given, like that one dude who's getting stomped and casting you out to high hell. The reason Triforce is so good on him now is because of what we mentioned before. AP and crit are gone, both stats that Skarner really doesn't care about, and 20% CDR has been slapped on, which is delicious. More shields and therefore more tankiness, more stuns and therefore more utility and more ults. It basically trimmed the fat from all the wasted stuff and turned it into something Skarner loves. In general as well, Sheen items are very good on him because he spams Q for his DPS, meaning he's going to be more or less be getting constant use of the effect. Mana is also an underrated stat on him, as by spamming everything constantly you do run the risk of going quite quickly. So how exactly do you want to be playing Skarner? Well, here are the runes, masteries and skill order you'll want to run. Item build, go blue smite so you can chase people and catch up to them, because if you're anything like me, then as a dedicated e-gamer, you'll need all the help you can get at moving fast for any extended periods of time. Build that into a warrior or cinderhulk and then get that glorious Triforce. After that, it's going to be more or less full tank, getting Spirit Visage if you need MR and Dead Man's Plate if you want armor. There are quite a few good items on him though, so you can take your pick. Skarner can be quite versatile in his playstyle, but is most powerful after level 6. Before that point, you can definitely try to make stuff happen and not necessarily fail, but it can certainly be tricky and it's really hard to force stuff. Luckily, Skarner is a great farmer, so you can just do that for a while instead. He also happens to be one of the best duelists around while also having serviceable utility. Most great 1v1 or skirmish champions tend to be lacking any major CC such as Shyvana or Kindred, but not the young bug boy. Go look to fight 1v1s or 2v2s where you can and use this status as a bully to help your team secure objectives like dragon or even tower pushes. Again, thanks to his constant sheen procs and extra damage from Triforce, Skarner makes pretty fast work of towers as far as those tanky junglers go. Later on, it's all about either trying to catch people alone and dragging them into your team, or just straight up killing them. Skarner is pretty good at doing that as well, or just run around and be as much of a nuisance as possible. You can hold on to your ultimate for quite a while, as just the threat of it being up will be more than enough to scare most enemy squishies into playing overly passive and suboptimally. A flash ult combo is also an option if you really want to go and make someone cry. Moving on to Hecarim now. He's a similar beast to Skarner, not literally since he's a horse and Skarner is a scorpion, but figuratively. Hec is another person who never really had a jungle item suit him the way the spirit of the Elder Lizard did, who sometimes has mana issues when clearing and who relies primarily on a spammable Q. He fills a similar role and has similar weaknesses to Skarner. Instead of a shield though, he has healing. His ult is also a much better engaged tool than Skarner's and can affect multiple targets, which is why you saw a lot more of him in competitive play. It also makes him slightly more versatile. Triforce's old AP and crit were again wasted stats on Hecarim. Instead, CDR allows for more mobility and more healing alongside more access to his only real gap closer, his ultimate. Spamming Qs will also make it so he gets a pretty constant sheen proc uptime, boosting his DPS fairly significantly. Unlike Skarner, mana is an underrated stat for Hecarim as he can easily fall out of mana if he's doing too much. This Triforce build allows Hecarim to have quite high burst damage as you're initiating with a sheen proc, but also to have very nice sustained damage, pretty much an all-round type of deal. Seeing as he tends to be very tanky after that Triforce, he can go toe to toe with many people and it's hard for someone to take him down if they don't hold some significant advantage before going into the fight. He suits the meta of tanky but still kill you really fast that we're seeing right now, while also not being someone that still goes completely full tank, so he doesn't fall off really hard later on. We're also starting to see less mobile squishy champions coming into the meta. The top 5 winningest ADs right now include Kog'Maw, Twitch, Ashe and Miss Fortune, none of which have any reliable way to escape a rampaging Hecarim. There are also quite a few squishy immobile supports and mids knocking about too, such as Zyra, Soraka, Anivia, Victor, Twisted Fate, etc. This meta certainly plays into Hecarim's strengths, or more specifically, it avoids his weaknesses, being hard kited. For playing Hecarim, go these runes, masteries and skill order. Take Ghost instead of Flash, as it's pretty good on people like Hecarim now after it got buffed. Item build, go either red or blue smite into Cinderhulk and then Triforce. Afterwards, similar to Skarner, you want to be almost full tanky. Spirit Visage is a great item for Hecarim. Tankiness, cooldown reduction and increased healing for his W. If you've got an excuse to get a little extra MR, then definitely pick it up. Now these other items are all good choices for Hecarim. Early on, Hecarim is pretty bad at ganking unless someone is really out of position. He can make it work, but it's far from his strongest point in the game. Make sure when you're initiating that gank to not use your E too early so that it runs out by the time you reach your opponent, and if possible, run behind them before colliding to knock them a bit away from safety. Hecarim is a good farmer though, so if you want to just farm until level 6, that can definitely work. After you get level 6, look to gank when your ultimate is up. Again, try to position it slightly behind targets so the fear makes them run into your allies, and so you can then follow up with an E to push them even further from safety. pretty much everything that I said for Skarner can apply here as well, except how you play the team fights. Skarner is much better at isolating and picking single targets off. Hecarim shines more in initiating plays and team fights into groups of enemies. If you see an opportunity to hit multiple targets, or more importantly the squishy targets, ulting in and starting the fight can set up great stuff for your team. Especially if you've taken Ghost, you can run around and avoid dying too easily despite starting everything off. As a tank, you'll still want to soak up as much as you can, of course, but don't forget that the Triforce build allows you to carry pretty hard as well, so it's not like you just want to jump in and die. Having said that though, if that does happen, don't forget to type worth in chat so everyone knows that it was totally calculated and 100% planned. And that's all I want to say for this video, guys. Let me know what you thought about it down below in the comments. This Hecarim and Skarner Triforce build is pretty strong right now, and like you're seeing, it's one of the highest win rated in solo queue for all junglers. I want to give another thanks to Pro Guys for helping me with the editing for this video, and if you did like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to me for more educational league content. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and catch me streaming over at twitch.tv/Foxdrop. All of those links are down below in the description, guys. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.